Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, I'll show you how we often begin our assemblies at Millbrook School, and it's with a slow, gradually building clap. So you can join me and go. Nice, thank you. So I created applause for myself. Thank you. If you don't mind, if you have strong objection, you can raise your hand and I'll put my mask on. I would prefer to speak to you from a distance with my mask off. I am vaccinated and I have been tested, including yesterday, and I'm not talking about by your grandchildren. My name is John Downs. I am the 7th headmaster of Millbrook School. I'm a proud alum. I graduated here in 1998, and then immediately after I graduated college, started teaching and coaching in a school in Livingston, New Jersey, and then worked down in a school in Charlotte, North Carolina, and returned home to Millbrook in 2010 with my wife, Erin. I was the director of admissions for 7 years, and then assistant head for 4 years, and now I've been head of school for 12 weeks. So thanks. We'll see if I last. We shall see if I last. So I want to welcome you all here. And before I introduce the Millbrook Singers, I want to get a little understanding of the range of generation we have in the room. So I'm just curious, by a show of hands, are any of you born in the 1920s? You're puppies. Anyone born in the 1930s? Ooh, okay. Now, I want to find out who's the elder in the room. We have 1931, 1930, 1932. 1930? Oh, so you are, what, 90, 91 now? Wow. So you get a blanket. Okay, all of you, we need to listen up. That is the stabilizing wisdom in the room. Okay? The rest of you have a lot to learn, including 1932. Who's over here? 39. Thank you. And just show of hands, 1940s? This is good. 1950s? Do we have 60s? Do we have any grandparents from the 1970s? Born in the 1970s. Parents, this isn't your day. Okay, so let's roll back. 1960s. Who's the youngest grandparent in the room? Do we have a 1969? Not on our faculty and staff. 1968? 1957. 57? How about in the 60s? Do we have a 67 or a 66? A 1965? 1964? 1963? 62? 61? Don't we have grandparents in the 1960s? Well, that was a waste of time. 1960, 1959, 1958. Where is it? 57? 1957. There we go. Oh, let's go with the birthday. We have another 1957? Right, I'm looking for the youngest. So what month were you born? 52. Okay, so 57. You're the youngest. So I gave the youngest as a gift. So I gave our elder a blanket to stay warm, and I gave the youngest as a gift a hat because, often the youth don't understand that the sun is not good for you. And I gave you a wine tumbler because in vino veritas. Okay? So I just want to thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts. This is record attendance at a Grandparents' Day. And I think that says something. It says something about how much we've had to spend time apart in the last 20 months. We have come to recognize this day as the happiest day of the year. It's fully agreed upon by our faculty and staff. And I've been thinking a lot about why this is the happiest day of the year, and I've reached one airtight, rock-solid, irrefutable conclusion. Your grandchildren love you so much more than they love their parents. They do. They do. Unlike their parents, you actually want to be here. You should have witnessed drop-off day this year. Your grandchildren were sprinting away from their parents to go to the dorms, to be with their classmates, to say hello to familiar faculty. And your children, our parents, were racing down School Road at Mach speed, screaming, "We're free!" It's funny how we display our love at times. Some say absence makes the heart grow yonder, but in boarding school, parents and children, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I'm sure of it. And with you, it's different. Your grandchildren want you to be with them as much as possible. They want to share their school with you. They want to share a community for which they have tremendous pride and gratitude. Our students tell me that they cannot wait to host you because you have this special way of making your grandchildren feel totally loved without judgment or daily questioning. My best friend's late grandfather, Turk Marcello, used to say to everyone who spent time with him, every person, "You are my only friend." That's what you would do. "Hi, Bud."
Nice to see you, John.
"Bud, you're my only friend."
And likewise.
Thank you, Bud. "Sandy, I mean this. I can't think about this world without you. You're my only friend." This is what Turk would do to everybody that he met. He had this way of making you feel like no one else in the world mattered but you. And even if he was full of beans, you still felt this kind of unconditional love and support, and therefore you just wanted to believe him. This magical connection between grandparents and grandchildren is perhaps best explained by Sam Levinson, who said, "The reason grandchildren and grandparents get along so well is because they have a common enemy." Or, my father-in-law has become fond of reminding me, and he's in love with all three of my children. He says, "Grandchildren are the gifts we receive for not killing our own children." And I remind you, he's talking about his daughter, Erin, my wife, not me. So here we are on the happiest day of the year, and you're my only friends. I want to tell you that your grandchildren are blessed to be in a wonderful school with a noble and clear mission. Our mission, in a community where every student is known and needed. Millbrook prepares its students for college and lives of meaning and consequence by instilling the values of respect, integrity, service, stewardship, and curiosity. That's it. Wow, it's great. 30 years ago, that mission was 3 pages long. And now it's one sentence. It's clear as clear can be. It's our promise to one another. We know who we are and who we are not. That clarity is helpful these days. Schools are under microscopes. Lots of uninformed scrutiny of content without any trained understanding of curriculum. People like to throw around the phrase, schools are indoctrinating children. That is, schools are teaching children to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. So are we indoctrinating Millbrook students? I'll play a little rhetoric here. Yes, we are. We're indoctrinating them with the pursuit of truth and fact, the skill to substantiate claims with convincing and relevant evidence, a sense of what it means to participate in an intentional community that is bigger than the individual self, an ability to express oneself fully and accurately through a variety of mediums, the skill of validating sources of information, searching for points of view that oppose our own dispositions, and the habit of deferred judgment. And of course, our values of respect, integrity, service, stewardship of the natural world, and curiosity, we see those values as non-negotiable. We're not teaching our students what to think, but we're teaching them how to think. And therefore, we focus on skills that will ready them to be lovers of learning throughout their life. Indoctrination is a rhetorical trap for schools. Any school worth its salt holds inquiry, curiosity, questioning, critical thinking at the very heart of teaching and learning. And now that I've worked with teenagers for 2 decades, I'll make a claim that suggesting such is insulting to our teenagers. Impressionable though they may be, in my experience, our teenagers have a lot more of James Dean, a rebel without a cause, than the inclination to fall in line with preachy adults. They're by nature nonconformists. And by the way, when I said James Dean, I saw a few grandmothers blush. That dreamboat passed away in 1955, and he still makes men insecure. We are a values-based school, and while we care deeply about preparing your grandchildren for college, we believe it's easy. What's not easy is, will they be productive, informed, generous, resilient citizens of a democratic society? Can they engage in civil discourse with an open mind, whether they stand with a majority or a minority on a topic? Will they be good husbands, wives, partners, parents? Will they be ethical leaders and socially conscious volunteers? We spend more time pondering what your grandchildren will be at 40 than we do between the ages of 18 and 22. The program at Millbrook is based upon the founding headmaster, Edward Polling's vision of a school, a vision that was born out of a contradiction, to be conservatively progressive. He wrote this vision for a school in 1928. This is not a political position. We are a school, and it is our responsibility and duty as educators to remain apolitical. Conservatively progressive is a pedagogical statement. It is how we think about teaching and learning in a world that sometimes feels new and radical, but when we zoom out, that pun's intended, zoom, it isn't a whole lot different from the challenges of almost any generation represented in this room. It is this paradox of conservatively progressive which demands us to take the best of our past as we innovate for the future. It's in our DNA. Our founding headmaster wrote, "We will not assume that new methods are best simply because they're different from old ones, or that the fundamental nature of the human race has suddenly changed." And he also wrote, "We will not adhere to tradition for tradition's sake. We will reject old methods for which experimentation has shown there are better substitutes, and we will keep in touch with contemporary educational developments." This dichotomy sparks attention, a demand to constantly study who we are and who we want to become, which is the very essence of what defines Millbrook, and it aligns directly with the heart of adolescence. We are on the edge of possibility, as school chaplain Cam Hardy, aka the Rev, reminds us regularly. We are among the fortunate few schools whose philosophical integrity has been hardwired since its origins. And we continue to aspire. We aspire to be the finest coeducational, ideal-sized boarding school in the country. The support of our trustees, our alumni, past and current parents, grandparents, friends, illustrates our success by every measure. Our admission statistics are at an all-time high. 800 visits, 700 applications for 100 spots. The annual fund that regularly hits records in dollars raised, and we are among the top 3 boarding schools in the country for parent and alumni participation. We average 75% of our students being admitted to one of their top 2 choices for college, and if you've heard of a selective college and university, we've sent Millbrook students there. The state of the school, in one word, is excellent, and we're not stopping. We just completed a new health center and business office. We are in process of building a new heads house and an alumni house on Pulling Circle. You probably saw the red fencing on the way in. We have plans for enhanced dormitories and faculty housing, a new boys' dorm, which may go right here, or it may go where there's a lovely 12-piece trailer that we call the farmhouse. We have plans for an athletic center expansion, a new field house, and an upgrade to our hockey rink. We're always in pursuit of a larger endowment to support our people, that is our faculty, staff, and students, our programs, and of course, the beautiful plant that you're all experiencing today. If you have interest in partnering with us, my cell phone number is 315-430-0627. I can airdrop that to you right now if you'd like. In all seriousness, the theme of my convocation talk with your grandchildren was centered around service and community and what Mother Teresa said, which is one drop, one drop, one drop, that makes up the ocean. That's how we built this school, and we're proud of that community and collective effort. Speaking of the community effort, I've invited some faculty and a few faculty grandparents to join us today. That is, those Millbrook faculty members who, like you, are grandparents. Nancy Stahl is our Director of Development. She's known as Nanny. Barbara Gatsky, Director of Parent Programs, is Gigi. Another Gigi in the room is Michelle Blaney, Director of Communications, and Cam Hardy, our school chaplain, is known as Noni. Jasper Turner, our Dean of Faculty, I asked to be with us today. J.J. Morrissey as our Dean of Students. Jarrett Clark, Assistant Head for Academics. And then Bob Anthony, Jeff Smith, our Chief Operating Officer and in-house counsel. And then Bob Anthony is our, what we call Senior Master. Bob was a student at Millbrook. Was it 5 or 6 years that you spent as a student here, Bob? What's that? Bob, like me, had the long plan through high school. After Bob graduated Colby, he worked for the Mets for a few years, and then he returned to Millbrook, and he's now in his 48th year of service at Millbrook School. There's nobody that's more Mr. Millbrook. He had a very close relationship with the Pollings, the benefactors of the school at the time, the Flaglers, and he's known every head of school right up until me. I invited my colleagues here because they've all dedicated their lives to educating adolescents, and because I hope they may be a resource for you as you think about the challenges that your children face, your children and your grandchildren. We have incredible wisdom on the faculty, and in particular in this group, and I certainly hope that they'll chime in when we have a little time for questions and answers. A faculty member who is retired from Millbrook and will forever be a part of this community is our 31-year head of school, Drew Casertano, who happens to be a grandfather of 4, and his grandchildren call him D. And Dee would say that we need to say more and more and more of 3 simple phrases that young parents like me need to learn, and that you, grandparents, truly understand. Here are the 3 phrases. It will work out. You can do this. Give it time. It will work out. You can do this. Give it time. In a world that seems to share and access information instantaneously, a world in which delayed gratification seems to be a thing of the past, I can think of no better way of us to be responsive and not reactionary, to forgive ourselves for not being as perfect as the rest of our online world appears to be, and to not get caught in the competitive sport that we call parenting. It will work out. You can do this. Give it time. Those messages from my friend Drew feel like a perfect place to end. Thank you for giving us your time today. I, like your grandchildren, am delighted to share this wonderful school with you. Thank you. I realize I'm standing between you, your grandchildren, and lunch, but we have a little time for questions, if you have any. Happy to choose your own adventure. Please.
For all of these plans that you have for Millbrook that you talked about, the dormitories and several buildings, the athletic center, et cetera. So what type of outreach do you conduct to raise funds? I mean, do you do it, go to foundations? What does that outreach look like?
Yeah, so Nancy Stahl can chime in a little bit, but generally it's from alums, from trustees, from current parents, from past parents, from friends of the institution, and foundations. Sometimes it feels like in these schools these days, whether it's at a college level or independent school, you can't raise money fast enough, right? You're trying to keep up. We are trying to outfit our school for our vision of having a school of 330 students. That's it. No more, no fewer. And what we say is we want to be as big as we can to be mainstream and competitive, yet small enough where every child is still known and needed. So we started this plan back in 2010 and then kicked off what we called Vision 2017. And you've seen kind of the fruits of what that silent campaign did for the institution. And now we call it Vision 2025. And so we have a development team of 8 people, I believe, who are hard at work with all of those constituencies to try and raise the funds. Yep, so is that helpful?
In addition to foundations, you might consider adding family offices. There's a big push for investment into education in this country.
Yep.
From the private sector as well as family offices.
We are familiar, and many thanks. There's a hand back here. Please.
Yeah, how are you dealing today with the tremendous pressure in academia for conformity and political correctness?
Yep. So if you cued into the center of my talk, that's what I wanted to address, right? That you see this a lot in the media, that there's this sort of fight where the pendulum's swinging on a school's responsibility to say this or that or teach curriculum and when values come in and when they don't. And so what we try to do is stay centered and true to our values, right? And that we offer a variety of perspectives and points of view, and that it is our job to push inquiry, push questioning, to push critical thinking. That's what we need to do at this age. So that our students graduate, as our founding head would say, to be productive citizens in a democratic society. Please.
How do you handle social media and allowing the kids some experimentation, some access to social media without overdoing and having to monitor what they do? Or do you not monitor at all?
Oh, you should have been in assembly on Friday with me. So I had a student, Chris Diaz, walk back and forth with me with the mask on and looking down at the phone. And this is what we did. And then I stopped and I said, Chris, put your phone in your pocket, I'll put mine in my pocket. Now let's walk by one another. And I said, hi, how are you? What's your name? Chris. Aren't you a student leader? Yes, I am. I'm a peer counselor. Where are you from again? I'm from the Dominican Republic. Really cool. I have a cousin from the Dominican Republic. Great. Someone said you play baseball. I swear you were shooting basketball the other day. And Chris says, yeah, I was. I said, that's great. I like to shoot baskets. Maybe we could do that sometime. Sure. We gave a hug. And the point that I wanted to make with our students is, I don't have my phone with me. That's cell phones. There we go. This is a drug. It's wonderful on so many levels. It helps us connect, right? Even through the last 20 months, you could see your grandchildren over FaceTime, over whatever application that you may use. It allows you to keep a calendar, be more efficient, communicate with friends. All of our world's moving faster because it's great. And there's an irony to that which was designed to keep us connected. The irony is it keeps us disconnected. And what I say to our students with social media, and it's going to be a tug of war for my entire career, I know it, and all of our careers, we're going to continue to fight this, that their social network, don't give up this privilege of boarding school. Soak it up like a sponge. A social network doesn't have to be through the app. It should be your dorms. It should be this dining hall. It should be all of the peers around you. And every time you walk on a path or you come into a building and you just bury your nose into this pacifier because it makes you feel safer, you've let go of the privilege of what this place is. So I really appreciate that. And I also, in anticipation of that question, I'll recommend 2 books that I've just found really useful. One is called Irresistible. It's about addictive behaviors in technology, and it opens up with a quote from Steve Jobs. It says, sellers should not be users, and Steve Jobs, when he designed the iPad, would not let his children have one. Think about that. And this is the iGen, which is a really fascinating study on Gene Twenge calls the I generation, those children who have never known the world without an iPhone. Right? So, 2 great reads. Maybe do another question? Please.
Your experience 7 years as head of admissions, if I remember the numbers correctly, you take about 15% of your applicants.
Well, so our yield is roughly 45%. So the question is, so if in our pool, if we have 700 applicants, we generally have to admit double because a lot of the students that come here also have other options. And then, in boarding school, you've got to kind of play those odds. We could have a side conversation about 3-year yield averages, which still are incredible about human behavior. They all seem to land over time, where every year I would break into sweats thinking, what if no one comes? And then on the other hand, I was like, what if they all come? Either way, it is there is a science, and then yet there's a little bit of a feel of the pool and the kind of an art to it.
Did you see any trend over the 7 years you were in admissions a trend about anything specific?
Well, I would say the one thing that we're looking at now, we saw a trend upwards as Millbrook developed, I think, as we made a commitment to be just a slightly bigger school. We saw more and more applications, and I think as we really brought our plant up to speed with our program, we saw that we were a more attractive place to the market. Last year was a boom because of the sort of mess that was day in public school education. So in boarding schools in general, almost everybody's applications were up 20-25% because of all of the ramifications of COVID. And so I don't know, will that trend continue? We'll see. Thanks for that question. Any other questions? We'll do one more and then we'll get some lunch.
What's your personal goal as a headmaster for the next 5 years in the school?
I want to achieve, well, I'll tell you this, I want to achieve Vision 2025, and I won't go into the full scope of the vision, but you heard about some of the planning projects for buildings. I want to improve our endowment. I was a full financial aid kid at Millbrook School. It means the world to me, and when we can do that to change the trajectory of a child's life with an education like this, whew, man, I'd love to do that. There are a variety of other things. What I tell our trustees, what's my goal this year? Survive. And then I think it was this way when I was a teacher, and I imagine as a school head: survive, jive, thrive. And then to lock into this place and really make it the best version of itself as we move on to the future. So thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's get some lunch and see your grandchildren. Thank you all.